Hello there, and welcome back to our Gait for Human Potential video series. I'm Carol Montgomery, physical therapist, somatic educator, and integral human gait expert. In this video, we explore the coordinated motions of counter rotation and counter tilting of both the shoulder girdle and the pelvic girdle. Restoring the possibility of these movements is essential as it begins to alert the brain to a reflexive and downward sensation of pressure. Remember, the nervous system is always searching for just the right amount of base of support because that's what's needed to make functional movement possible. It's always seeking the answer to this sensory question. Is there enough connection? Is there enough groundedness, safety, or instantaneous stability for this physical form to move? And that will determine how you will take your next step in walking or how high you will lift your leg to clear a baby gate, climb stairs, walk up a hill, overreach out to the side, or over the head. Cynthia Allen named this exploration Finding the Empire Waist. This is just an excerpt or introduction of that lesson, and you can experience the entire lesson the next time you join us for our Gait for Wild Human Potential class. Now, you're going to need a couple of yoga blocks and a firm chair to sit in. It's up to you whether or not you would like to take your shoes off or keep them on. So I'll give you a moment to assemble a couple of blocks and a chair. And if, for instance, you don't have any yoga blocks, no problem. Just think of a large box of some kind. That gives you about 5, maybe 6 inches to place your foot off the ground. Now, before we get started in our movement, I'd like to do an assessment. And this assessment is where we begin to bring our hands up to shoulder height and let the elbows just kind of hang down. I'm sitting upright, so I'm not sitting back in my chair. I'm sitting upright. And I'm going to take my right hand and I'm going to reach my right hand up and into the ceiling as far as I can comfortably go. My left hand and elbow just hang down at the side. And then I lower myself back down. I'll try that maybe 2 or 3 times. And what I'm trying to get a sense of is as my hand goes up, do I have a sense that one of my sit bones takes more weight or gets heavier or pressure? Does one side of my pelvis begin to move down? I'm not making this move down, it just spontaneously happens. Or do I stay right in the middle? I go to the left side and let's see what happens here. Left fingers reaching up, extending long and up to the ceiling and lowering. And on this side, I'm getting a sense for myself that as the left hand goes up, I feel the left sit bone, this area go down. I feel the right side starting to come up. One more time. So that's kind of like our pre-test or pre-assessment and see what it is for you. There's no right or wrong. With the right hand is could be the left hip bone that goes up. It just tells us information. It could be that there is no change. You stay rested or seated in both sit bones. It could be that you can't even get your arm to go up very high because you've got a shoulder problem. If that's the case, then instead of thinking of the hand growing long, what I want you to think of is what would happen if you would start to lift the bottom of the armpit up. So it's the bottom of the armpit up. That's for those folks who have difficulty being able to reach because of some type of shoulder problem. But can you start to get a sense that if the bottom of the armpit starts to lift or the outside of the breast tissue starts to lift up, what happens with the weightedness across your pelvis? The first thing we're going to do is have a seat in your chair and sit to the forward edge of your chair. Now, we're going to take our two yoga blocks and we're going to place the yoga blocks underneath our right foot. So you'll notice that now the right knee is higher than the left knee, but both legs and thighs are going to be parallel to the camera. So in this lesson, it'll be important that we keep a certain configuration. And this is what we want when with the thighs. Now, I'll show you the setup that we're going to use with the arms. And in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to take our right hand and we're going to bring our right hand behind us near the back of the right hip. Now, you can either use your fist and place your fist behind on the chair seat, or you can open your hand, and if you have a rung on the back of the chair, you can wrap your hand around the rung itself. Okay? So you get to choose which type of chair you have and whatever's comfortable for your own hand. So once again, right foot on the block, right hand behind you. I'm going to put my fist on the chair seat right next to my pelvis, and we're going to put the left hand across the right thigh. Now, this is the configuration that we're going to use throughout the entire movement. So it's going to be seductive to always want to look at the camera and the video here to see what it is that I'm doing. But I want to invite you to have your own experience because we're just going to be doing things from this position. We're not actually going to be changing and making a lot of altercations. So keeping this position, allow yourself to relax into this position. It's not about sitting up tall. This is not about a old familiar yoga pose or yoga stretch. So allow yourself to relax. Could you simply begin to breathe from this kind of twisted position? Breathing in, breathing out. Just a couple of cycles. Good. And come back. Okay, let's come back again. Several times, let's begin to actually turn our torso and our head to the right and come back. So, carrying your shoulder blades to the right, letting your eyes follow the natural horizon line, skimming around your room. The next time you come to the front, pause. Now, I want to call your attention to something. So, as you turn, some of you may be spontaneously letting the right knee fall out to the side as you turn. Could you go ahead and use this left hand? Use this left hand to allow it to stay straight ahead towards the camera. You might have to have this counter pressure against that right thigh to help you, assist you in turning to the right. So we're keeping our right knee forward as we take a couple of turns to the right. And could you go slow enough that your breath itself isn't interrupted. And pause there for just a moment with your face and your torso and your shoulders to the right. And then reverse the movement coming back. And as you come back, let the shoulder girdle, both of them square up towards the camera or forward in parallel with your pelvic girdle. A couple of times again, turning right, coming back. Now, the pressure that we're noticing is that there's some kind of downward pressure happening on the chair. Can be coming from somewhere along the bottom of your pelvis, your sit bones. You may even start to feel that if you have your fist on the chair, that your hand can be pushing down into the chair or wrapped around the spindle of the chair. And the next time you find yourself to the front, let your hands go and let them rest on your thighs. Take a full cycle of breath. And I really like how you're just letting your eyes go, your breath go. So it's not about imitating me, it's about having your own experience. In somatics, we're looking for your ability to increase your awareness to sense, particularly in this lesson, pressure, pressure moving down. At the same time, if something is moving down, something is also lifting. If something is turning in one direction, there's also another tilt in another direction. All right, let's come back to that same configuration. Right hand to the right buttock or hip, left hand across the left thigh. Thighs are parallel and facing the camera. Looking ahead at first. And then this next time, we're going to turn 3 times. And on the third time, we're going to stop. And we'll stop with our face to the right. Good. And right here, could you begin to take a breath in through the nose and then exhale? Some of you can just exhale through the mouth if that's what you like. Inhale through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Feeling that as you inhale through the nose, there's a lifting of not just the ribs, exhaling, and a lowering. Maybe the pelvis itself can start to lift, whatever that means to you. Is there a rocking sensation that could come across one sit bone, across the other sit bone? Good. Let that go. Bring yourself back to the front again. And then bring our hands in that familiar orientation. Now, let's turn again, but turn only half the distance. So it's easy, nothing very strenuous here. And I want you to begin to think of lifting your right sit bone a little way from the chair and then set it back down. The right sit bone away from the chair and set it back down. Now, if you're still bound to looking at the camera just to see what I'm doing, what I'd like you to do is to have your eyes look down in the direction of your right hand, and then you can come back to the camera. So, again, lifting the right sit bone, sense how the right fist or the right hand could start to help you lift your right sit bone. Can you feel the downward pressure of the right hand pushing down that assists to lift the right sit bone from the chair? And you can feel that as you keep your thigh bones parallel to one another, you can feel yourself rocking over onto the left sit bone and stacking up over there on that side. Two more times. Looking down at the hand and then letting that all go, bringing your hands back to the front. All right, same configuration. So this time, let's once again start to turn to the right, halfway, find an easy place that it's tolerable, comfortable. There's not a lot of strain there to stay rotated to the right. And this time, can you see what it would be like to start to lighten and lift the left sit bone? What would it take to lift that left sit bone? You may not be able to go all the way over onto the right sit bone. The left may not be able to lift totally. For some of you to do that, you have a tendency to let that right knee fall out to the right to lift, but I really want you to keep those thighs parallel. And how can you use that left hand? Maybe pulling the left hand into the left thigh. Does that give you any assistance to start to let the left side of the pelvis get lighter? Can you get a sense that there's some folding going along the left side of the torso? Is there any assistance in looking down into the left? Is that helpful in any way? For some of you, that may be a very unfamiliar move, and it might cause a little more neck strain. This one's a little harder, isn't it, to lift that sit bone? Are you clutching or holding on to your breath? Could you move just a little slower so that you could feel this pressure moving across your bottom and the left side of the pelvis getting just a skosh lighter? Let that all go. Turn yourself back to the front. Rest your hands on your thighs. One more reiteration. So, once again, let's go into our configuration. Right hand by the right side of the pelvis, left hand across the right thigh. Turn a little to the right and back to the front. The right, back to the front. Find that easy space in turning to the right. It's so easy to turn to this side that you are not losing the presence of your breath. And now let's have a go of pressing the right fist or hand and lifting the right sit bone as I look down. And then now looking down into the left, pulling with the left hand and lighten the left sit bone, letting the pelvis roll across its bottom, across the chair, looking to the right sit bone, And having this sense of pushing the fist down that lifts the right sit bone, the pull of the left hand that lifts the left, right hand lifting right sit bone, left pulling lightens the load or lifts the left sit bone. Just rocking across this tilting from side to side. We're translating our spine from right to left. One shoulder blade moves up, one shoulder blade moves down. The counter tilting of the pelvis lifting as the other side of the pelvis lowers. Very much like a teeter-totter from side to side. And if you're still bound to want to look ahead and see what Carol is doing in the video, you can do that too. You can keep your face and your eyes still pressing with the right to lift the right sit bone, pulling, pulling with the left to lift the left sit bone. If my middle back was against the chair, it would be as though I would be itching the middle of my back, rubbing it. It's another way of thinking. Good. Great. Let that all go. Take your foot off the yoga block. Great. So this movement starts to once again be able to explore this counter tilting of the shoulder girdle and pelvic girdle, and also the counter rotation of those two girdles as well as this shifting of pressure along the sit bones across the width of the pelvis, and allowing the head to find a center point in which that it can carry the torso and be able to stack the head, the torso over a single base of support. So this will have, as I said before, incredible importance in your ability to walk a little freer, to feel balanced on one leg so that you can swing and take the next step forward or step over something. So that's just, now let's see what kind of impact that this movement had on our ability to reach up over our head. So we're going to bring our hands up at shoulder height. Our elbows are hanging down to the floor. Fingers are long and extended. And I'm going to reach up with my right hand, reaching high up and into the ceiling, and then coming back down. If you want to follow your hand to the ceiling, you're certainly welcome to do that. Lifting your face, lifting your eyes, and getting a sense that as the hand reaches into the ceiling, which sit bone gets a little bit heavier, which sit bone takes its downward pressure into the chair. For me, my right hand up, my right sit bone goes down. Let's go see what happens with the left. Here's my left hand. I'm going to reach my fingers up and into the ceiling. I let the right elbow hang down, reaching. I can look, I don't have to look. And I definitely feel for me that my left sit bone goes down as my left hand reaches up. Good. So, if you want to learn more about why reaching the hand up to the ceiling or up the wall is important in walking, we invite you to join us for one of our classes.